is a writer, a gun violence prevention activist for safer communities. She grew up in nearby Pauling, New York, but for nearly 20 years has called Newtown, Connecticut home, where she lives today with her teenagers and rather attractive husband. She told me to say that. Please welcome Kathy.
Lucy.
Are you kidding me?
Can you hear me? Yes. Hi, everybody.
I tried to climb the same bridge some 30 years ago before it was a walkway, but I chickened out. I think the cops came, but I don't recall whether I was afraid of the cops or what. So Newtown's been my home now for 20 years, but I did grow up in upstate New York. Well, it's upstate if you live downstate, and it's downstate if you're from upstate. It's in Falling. I used to drink at Skinner's. Does anybody remember Skinner's? Okay. I once broke into a boathouse down near Marist College with the cutest guy ever, and it wasn't the one I'm married to. My mom taught in Pleasant Valley. My dad taught math at Dutchess, and I went there, and I used to waitress at Denny's in Fishkill, and then at the river station here at Poughkeepsie before I graduated from Oswego. I moved to Newtown because it reminded me so much of home. It was bigger than Pauling, but it was still a quaint small town. It was rural yet convenient. It had good schools, great families, safe streets. It was quaint and it was quiet. And it still is, except now it's Newtown. And I have to tell you straight up that I am nobody. If the epicenter of our tragedy was Sandy Hook School, I live on the other side of town. My kids have aged out of primary grades. I don't work for the town and I don't work in the schools. And yet, here I am. I'm broken, but I'm healing. I am, if you'll excuse the term, collateral damage. I am the ripple effect, and there's a lot of us. There's a lot of us here today. Before, we were just like you. We thought those things they would never happen here. I watched TV coverage of Columbine and Virginia Tech and Binghamton and thought, those poor people. And then I turned the station. Do you know how immune I was to gun violence before? My daughter texted me from the floor of her math class. When the lockdown left her alone together with her class, her cell phone, and a live Twitter feed of what was happening. And she was realizing very quickly that something indeed was happening. Mom, what's going on? I hear helicopters. Someone got shot. This is how I responded. Don't worry, it'll be okay. Some nut job probably went into Sandy Hook School and killed his wife. Let's hope he didn't kill his kid as well. And I wrote that, and I meant it. I had become so used to gun violence that somehow this scenario was completely acceptable to me. And in retrospect, I'm not gonna lie, I wish with all my heart that's what had happened. But it didn't. And now I stand here with superhero powers to stop people in their tracks just by saying, I'm from Newtown. When people hear I'm from Newtown, one of three things happens. One, they don't know and they don't pretend to know. I hate that. Two, they know and they pretend not to know because they're not sure what to say or how to say it. Three, tears spring immediately into their eyes and they say they're so very, very sorry. Sometimes they ask with complete sincerity, well, I won't ask you the obvious question. Everyone here from Newtown knows the obvious question, and we hate it. Did you know anybody? Would you guys know anyone if someone killed 2 classrooms of kids in your town? Would you know or recognize the first responders, the teachers, the Little League coaches, the Daisy troops that have half its members, the religious ed kids that were no longer there, the sisters, the brothers, the soccer players, the wrestlers, the dancers, the camp kids, if 20 of them just disappeared one morning? If 6 teachers, moms, daughters, sisters, friends, got up and went to school and didn't come home? I really wish the obvious question would evolve to, what can I do to help? What can we do to stop this from happening? And that's why I came here today. That's why I asked to speak. I wanted to thank you for doing. I wanted to thank you for being here and standing strong. Thank you for not giving up, not giving in, and not going away. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for demanding common sense gun legislation so our story does not become your story. And thank you for walking and marching and signing and calling and voting and donating to help stop gun violence. Thank you for joining all the groups and giving your time and energy and posting and tweeting and sharing because it really does matter. I'm just like you, yet I never want you to be just like me. But unfortunately, too many of you already are, and you have your own stories and your own grief and your own pain. There are people right here, right now, who saved lives that day. There are people right here, right now, who know firsthand the damage inflicted when firearms do the job they are so brilliantly manufactured and marketed to do. And there are people right here, right now, who have friends who know they have no business owning weapons, and yet are able to purchase whatever they want, whenever they want, with no accountability, no safety restrictions, no responsibility toward the safety of themselves or others. It's the gun lobby mantra: guns, guns, and more guns. Unlimited access to unlimited power with carefully choreographed fear. So we can't be surprised when unlimited casualties result. Background checks really do matter. And yet there's people here committed to making change. There's kids and teachers and parents, and there are gun owners and there are non-gun owners. And there are Democrats and Republicans and independents and moms and dads and hunters and grandparents and cops and politicians and vets. And we are all here not to take your guns away, but to limit access to unlimited power and unlimited rounds to make sure anyone who purchases a firearm has the ability to safely own one. This is not a political issue, it is a human issue, and we're all in this together.
Amen.
Last year on this bridge over the Hudson, I met Andy Pelosi. He's the founder of Campaign to Keep Guns Off Campus. And he's been fighting this fight long before it pummeled my town. I was angry and I was frustrated at the lack of progress and humiliated by our Congress. And looking at the boats in the river below, he said calmly, "You gotta realize, we're not turning around a jet ski. We're trying to turn around that barge.
I'm glad you're here.
We are the front line of a social movement, a cultural shift, and not a quick fix. Last year, I was too close to see any movement, but I see it now. And while change will not happen overnight, story by story, election cycle by election cycle, state by state, thanks to you, it will happen. And how do I know? Because the other side is getting more rabid and ugly in their opposition, so we must keep up the pressure. Attend rallies like this. Invite a new friend every time and ask questions. From DC to Albany to your local zoning board and board of ed, you need to know where elected officials stand on gun violence prevention and vote accordingly. Make them work for you. Don't engage with the haters. Focus on conversation, not conflict. And post on Facebook. It's a very powerful tool. Talk to face at the bus stop, at the coffee shop, at the train, water cooler, book club. Tell people what you learned. Vote, and remind your friends to vote too. Hold a sign, write a letter to the editor, sign a petition, take a stand, and don't back down. It's worth it. When you change the conversation, you change the culture, and you change the laws, and it all starts with us, a bunch of nobodies who want to create safer communities. And when you wonder if all this is worth it, and the haters and the hoaxers and the paranoid patriots will try to bully you into submission, ask yourself this: if the shooter had entered your mall, your theater, your workplace, your school, if people were shot daily in your streets, would you want me advocating for you? Because if the shooter had entered Newtown Middle School or Newtown High School, I would not be a nobody. I would be a member of a not-so-exclusive group of grieving parents. And traffic flow should not designate grief and loss. So write that letter, please. Hold that sign, post on Facebook, or Snapchat, or Twitter, or whatever you can get your kid to teach you to do. And vote, you must vote. Vote gun safety, and remind your friends to do it as well. I may be a nobody, but I believe the hearts and minds and eventually laws can be changed one person at a time, and I'm asking you to be that person. Thank you so much.
Thank you.